This is Hacking TV, and this week, the search for the right creative formula for successful video today.
First, a radical idea from the Tribune company that bots can create 2,000 new videos a day.
Then it's radical conservatism at Snapchat, which is making its news section newsier.
Since we've decided that the future will be all about virtual reality, the BBC and Getty Images are starting to see what they can do with it. Hint, there are bagpipes involved.
And at YouTube, there's growing tension between the masses and the elite.
I'm Steve Rosenbaum.
And I'm Saul Hansel, and this is Hacking TV.
Hacking TV. Welcome, Saul. Greetings and salutations.
And greetings from beautiful Montclair, New Jersey.
So, where should we be? Let's just jump right in. So, first of all, I think we should get all of the Tribune new name jokes out of the way. So,
Tronk.
Well done.
Okay.
So here's the thing. I'm going to defend Tribune in this case because...
Well, let me stop, because there's a theme for the whole issue. I just want to talk about this idea of creative model, right? People talk a lot about business models, right? How are you going to make money, and does your, you have more money coming in than it's going out. I think creative model is so much up in play, and in this, how are you making your video? How many people? How long? What is your aspiration? And then, of course, can you cover your costs and make money on it? And will anybody watch it? And we think so much about the technology, and we want web video, we want virtual reality, that I think people lose sight of getting this creative model right. And so we've got a bunch of stories about why, different experiments. The first one, right, Tribune Company is doing a lot of stuff, right? Their newspapers are failing. They're trying to fend off a hostile bid from Gannett. And in there, they announced there in an interview, and that, I'm sorry, they announced that they wanted to make 2,000 videos a day using artificial intelligence.
Well, okay,
and
so
I'm a little skeptical, but you are thinking that the Tronk, the new name for Tribune, revival makes some sense to you.
So I think you have to roll it back. The question is, are we going to be able to have the new world be the old world only different, which is what we've been trying to do, or is it really going to really be a forest fire in which some amount of the old stuff has to go away? And what I like about Michael Farrow's take on, he first of all told something that I didn't know, which is they don't even own the name Tribune. That essentially, when they spun the newspaper side, the publishing side off, they held back all the rights to everything in the other company, and essentially they have to pay to license it. So not only does the name Tribune mean old storied media brand, but it also they have to pay for it. So he essentially said, but what I liked about what they said was, we're going to have a new name, we're going to get some grief for it, whatever, but we're going to invest in journalism and we're going to invest in technology, and we don't see it as being an either or.
I am a huge believer in bionic journalism, and I believe that lots of technology is going to make smart people do better stuff. But I think that what we see so far about people using automation to make super high volume video is the wrong combination. It's not. I'm not saying machines and artificial intelligence can't do useful things. I'm saying the recipe of high volume content, the way people are doing it, is a recipe for making videos that nobody's going to watch.
So again, the proof is in the pudding. But what I liked about what he said, and he's been consistent, if you listen to him in all the interviews, he said, we're going to do great journalism, we're going to invest in journalists, we're not going to, there is a whole community of storytellers who believe that the audience will come back home to mama and will read their, 5,000 word, thoughtful, long form. And he's saying, you know what? We need great journalism. We also need volume, and we need.
But I think that this search for volume is an open question, because there's a lot of effort that goes into the volume game, and it may or may not be the right choice for everybody. I'm not saying it's the wrong choice, but I mean, I think that at the moment there are a lot of people creating very low value content and getting low returns for it, and that's not going to play out. But again, I'm really, we're a video podcast. I'm really trying to focus on the video model here.
Yeah.
And just because it's the right thing to have new ideas and to try new stuff and to assume that the old way isn't going to work doesn't mean that every new idea is a good one. Now, stuff makes sense, but
to be fair, hold on a second. We don't yet know what. I mean, he said AI, and we're going to do 2,000 videos a day, but it isn't yet clear what he. As I said, the proof's in the pudding. What does he?
We've got a couple of data points. One, so you've got the video they're making now, which, if you root around, I spent some time today looking at the videos on the Tribune company's website as of today, and they had one. Didn't look like it was AI, but it was trying to be low cost, and I'm all in favor of low cost. But somebody had written an article about a company that found a good way to hire people on the autism spectrum and make them, productive workers by adjusting the workplace. It's a really interesting story. And they had a little bit of video, but they had a person reading it like a narrator who had very little narrative skill. It was mostly like panning over still photos and a little bit of B-roll, and it deadened what was a lively piece of journalism by what I assume was a print reporter who figured it out. And that's not the answer, right? Making stuff. Whereas if you compare that to, say, the BuzzFeed food videos, they're reasonably cheap, but they have a liveliness and they work within the budget to and have an exuberance, and you can connect to them. And the boss saying make lots of stuff cheap organizationally can lead to lots of bad things happening.
So I want to dig into what you didn't like. You didn't like the voice. You didn't like the script. Well, the main thing I didn't like is I couldn't imagine anybody looking at this and saying, people are going to like this. It looked like people were producing things to fill holes rather than making things for people, because it did not communicate the information or the feelings that they were trying to get at. It wasn't clear who was going to, who's going to watch this, where are they watching it, why are they watching it. So it just didn't have the sort of eternal truths of creative communication. It doesn't matter what medium. There has to be something you're communicating and a connection. So let's talk about Time Inc. for a minute, because you felt the same. So Time Inc. is also going down this automated journalism path. And so,
the company you guys do business with, I've spent some time with, I think we might even talk about Watchit, WOCHIT. Very interesting company, built by these guys from Israel who did all kinds of other tech companies, and the first thing they did was built an almost entirely automated system that would identify what was in the news, write a script by stealing sentences and calling it fair use from news articles, finding web images, and then they found that, hiring a voice actor very quickly, or that they had on call, to make a 1-minute video that was on the headlines. And the stuff was as bland as you would imagine it would be. They've since unbundled that, and they give that toolkit to news organizations who can, combine whatever it is they do in whatever combination they want with these tools, which I think makes sense. But the Time Inc. videos that they were doing right now, again, they were trying to ape what BuzzFeed is doing, which was like taking an Entertainment Weekly story and doing it with subtitles over stock footage, and it felt really flat to me. I don't know. Do you like them?
So I think that there's different kinds of need. I would say if you're talking about a sports story or a breaking news story or something in which being first matters, I want the information, and I'll take it whoever gets to me first is going to win that race. If you're talking about a story like the one that you described earlier with Tribune that's more nuanced, I think these automated story production machines are all a piece of the new world, but I don't think they replace journalism.
Agreed. And I'm sure the guys at Tribune would say that too. But what's missing, but I don't think, if you want a breaking headline, right, you probably want to read it unless one of two things is true, right? So why would you want video instead of text? Because text has more information per minute, and text is much more skimmable, so you're not a hostage to it. So there are two reasons why you want video. One, you're in a video mode. You're watching the TV news, or you're watching something and you want to be passive because you're just chilling out, or you're making dinner, or whatever it is, or because it's inherently video-ish. There's something about the style or the substance that's better in video.
So Snapchat's taken a swing at this, and trying to get into more ephemeral, timely, see it now, it's gone immediately after, and there have been a couple of different people who've taken a look at Snapchat's changes in the last week, which theoretically is all part of this. Let's find a format that works in web and mobile and video.
Right. So Snapchat. So one story I thought was interesting was Bill Adair, who is a journalism professor and the founder of PolitiFact, went and said, I'm only going to get my news from Snapchat this week. What do I learn? Well, two things. One, a lot of it's pretty damn superficial. Big surprise. BuzzFeed does good stuff, but a lot of other people, it's all fluff. But more to the point, they only update the stories once a day. So like when Muhammad Ali dies, you have to wait 24 hours before you have a Muhammad Ali story on Snapchat. And like, what's the point of that? And by the way, what is it? Only 17% of Snapchat users actually use the news videos. So this week, Snapchat announced a redesign, which net was a move forward. Instead of just having an icon that says BuzzFeed, you see an actual, like, whatever the BuzzFeed lead story is, and like a headline for it. And so they're trying to make it newsier and think about the audience. It's not news because it's like, this guy's old-fashioned. It's news because people want to know what's going on.
Yeah, I think if you talk to them, they wouldn't say they're trying to make it newsier. I think they're trying to make. I think newsier in all the good. News. When I say newsier, that doesn't mean it's hard news instead of gossip. I think they're trying to improve relevance.
Yes, newsier means relevant, interestingness, right? So if you have a tile that says CNN, that's not as interesting. whether it's relevant, or not, interesting, as a story that says, Muhammad Ali dies, right? And
so Bill Adair's, the take of the Bill Adair article was, I tried to get a news diet from Snapchat and it didn't work.
And it was disappointingly lame for a medium that has 150 million daily users or something like that, right?
But there was another Snapchat article that wasn't, that was not as
well, that was about the redesign that they did sort of after that, right? Which is what I was saying, with making putting the headlines on and also blending the professional content, which is how they make money, with something called live stories, which are sort of crowd-sourced community features on given topics. And apparently the community features are a lot more popular than the professional stuff, so they're putting them on the same page because they don't get paid on the community features, and they do on the professional stuff.
Yeah. So I have to say this. I'm in awe of the Snapchat guys. They're evolving very quickly. They're overtaking, I think we saw this week, Twitter in total users. There was another, like, I don't have the chart in front of me, but there was another traffic number that said Snapchat continues to go up and to the right. I think they're testing lots of things. I think they're funny and lighthearted and silly with their funny masks and their kind of, they're like, let the kids play with new toys side of the business, but they're also taking seriously their storytelling. And I think, they'll keep, I think they're in a moment in time when they're going to continue to evolve and test things until they figure out what works. And
I think that it's a good sign, right? So the first time I went and played with the Snapchat video section, I said, this is insane, right? It's just network tiles. They made no sense to me at all. So they're fixing that. So if they have a good iterative loop and they try and figure out what their audience wants and give them more of that, that makes sense. I mean, it's a pretty audacious thing to say our entire business, the entire reason why people use us is person-to-person communication, but the entire way we're going to make money is on TV ads on professional content. Right? I'm not saying it's impossible, because if you have so many goddamn people using your person-to-person communication app, you might be able to build a TV network on top of that, or a cable system, or whatever it is, but that disconnect, I mean, it would be as dangerous as saying, I'm going to build an organization where what we're giving to consumers is news about local cities, but I'm making all of my money on real estate ads and job postings. When you have something that is that disconnected, you become very vulnerable.
All right, so let's move to an area where we violently disagree. VR.
You love watching 5 minutes in 3 dimensions of the guys in the kilts marching around. Can you put that up on the screen, the link that...
I don't have it available to me at this time, but I get your point. No, I love what VR is challenging storytellers to think about in terms of different ways to tell stories. It's like being a painter, and it used to be that you didn't have the color blue on your palette, and then one day you wake up and there's the color blue, and you can go, oh, I can paint a pelican, I can paint the sky. And to me...
Steve, I need to say something. I couldn't agree with you more. But if somebody invented blue, and you didn't have blue, we wouldn't say, the future of painting is blue. We would say, painters can be even more creative because they have yet another color to add to their palette.
So I think we're a little further than a single color, but if we can, so we're talking about a particular thing. So let's talk about the BBC. So
we've got 2 stories today about 2 companies announcing they're actually going to do stuff with VR. They say VR, but the first piece of VR, it's not all the blues. It's just, it's just navy, or in this case, it's 360 video, right? Which I guess if you, in the BBC's case, if you put on a headset, you can turn your head around and see the 360 through a headset. But it's,
So the New York Times was first doing a lot of interesting journalism in VR, and now the BBC is scampering up from behind and saying that they're going to start doing 360 video projects. And you as our official tester of VR went online and tested it and found it to be woefully inadequate.
I have two issues with it. So their first thing, and it's the BBC, it's charming, right? The New York Times has its eccentricities. They stuck a 360-degree camera in the practice session for the parade in honor of Her Majesty's 90th birthday. Now, I can't say that I've spent a lot of time looking at all the different ways that Her Majesty's 90th birthday was covered, but for some reason, Siri decided that in the little 4 stories that they show you when you go to the search page, one of them was a story about the lime green outfit she wore, and something in the clickbaitiness of that is, I went and I said, oh, the lime green outfit is pretty bold, and there was like a catty little thing from USA Today or something. Guess what? The best tool for that particular little story was a telephoto lens, not a 360 lens. And the 360 lens, you have a tiny little green speck, and you mostly see a bunch of people in the audience and a bunch of guys in kilts marching around. It just didn't seem like it was the right color for the thing that they were doing. I
want to point out that you've mentioned these kilts a number of times. You seem to be strangely attracted to the kilts, which, whatever you're into, it's all good.
360 views of kilts, we'll just leave it at that. But
Getty Images, big photography agency. I've done some photography with Getty, and they're embracing 360.
So if I were Getty, I would want to play with this stuff too. What's the first thing they're going to do? The big showpiece of the Rio Olympics, and they had an example 360. And again, it made me think, if I'm looking at a sporting event, why do I want that 360 to see that there's an audience there? I mean, an establishment shot every now and then to see what the place looks like, why not? But in terms of 98% of what I would want in photographs would be photographs of the sporting action, which is not 360.
So let's read the subhead here because it's important. Getty Images plans to equip every one of its Olympic photographers with a 360 camera. Every one.
And what do you take from that?
As someone who shot 360, I can tell you, imagine if you were writing a newspaper article. In addition to writing it from the top of the page down, you also had to write it sideways and upside down and backwards at the same time. Shooting 360 is really different than shooting straight-on photography. It's really different. And so what they're really doing is saying to all of their photographers, okay, who's going to figure out this medium? And there will be enormous numbers of terrible 360 images that will come out of that experiment that will go in the garbage. And there will be a couple that will be extraordinary.
Well, that makes sense, right?
But I'd love to hear what.
And look, the Olympics have a lot of things going on, so why not? Some of them will be 360, no question. I think it's it doesn't jump out, but they're going to be the stuff on the side, because unless you get to stick your 360 camera in the middle of the basketball court or on top of the shot put, right? 360 isn't, the right format for the sports coverage.
All right, so the last story of our rapidly clock ticking half hour is, I know we talk about YouTube a lot, but I did think that the articles this week about the conundrum that YouTube finds itself in were worthy of a few minutes of our attention. You said you found that the Wall Street Journal article to be, what did you call it, a corner office?
Well, that's the name of a New York Times feature. It just was. That's what the feature was. It was a little how so some of the stuff was about her work style or her personal work balance. It was an interview with Susan Wojcicki, but it mixed business and personal questions. But there was, what struck me was a contrast between two questions. So, who is your biggest competitor? Snapchat, Facebook, and Netflix, and in some sense, traditional television. So, of the four of those, three are professional, right? Snapchat is making their money on professional video. Netflix is super high-end professional video, and traditional TV is professional video. But then the question, like, what is surprising you? And she said, people are much more interested in the regular person than we may have thought. And we thought that users only wanted to see professional, finished types of content, but they actually wanted to see all types. There's a very human element of YouTube where people are connecting with other people. I mean, that's the lifeblood of YouTube. And so the conflict is the money, there is a professional business, and yet that's not what YouTube is about. And at least in that short interview, I didn't see her squaring the circle at all.
Well, so what's complicated about YouTube's relationship to regular people is that once they become popular on YouTube, they almost inevitably stop being regular people, right? So you're a regular person and you have a YouTube channel and people start to follow you and you start getting fans, and then your phone rings and it's Ford and they say, we're going to give you a Ford Fiesta to drive and we just want you to blog about this car we're giving you. And you say, okay. And then your phone rings again and it's Sony and they say, we're going to give you a great big flat screen TV and we want you to just, so there is this kind of complicated tension between the regular people that get to be popular on YouTube and then how quickly they become a different kind of celebrity than we're used to, but a celebrity nonetheless, famous nonetheless.
And I don't think what are they doing? They're trying, they're doing a little bit of everything, and they're big enough, again, a little experimentation makes sense, but they're trying to add the pay tier, they're trying to do live, they're doing a lot of stuff, but I don't know that it solves their problem.
You can upload 360 directly to YouTube?
But that doesn't address is there a business for YouTube other than being the best way for everybody to do stuff for everybody, which is what they're used for, and people like them for that. People are glad YouTube exists. It just doesn't happen to be a particularly profitable business.
Well, and Madison Avenue has to take some responsibility. Once you get below the top 2% of YouTubers or 3% of YouTubers, the revenue for posting your video on YouTube essentially falls off a cliff.
So they've got to, they haven't figured out. In a certain sense, what Snapchat is doing is a lot more elegant. It's a lot easier for Snapchat because they're a lot smaller, but they're saying, we have a community business that we're just going to keep doing that thing and it's going to draw audience, and that's great. And then we're going to use that to divert some eyeballs into our paid business, which is, this video clip distribution. And that's what we're going to do. And we have how we make money and how we get audience, and they're separate. YouTube hasn't found something that crisp to have audience and make money. The overlay ads, they make more money than lots of people, right? It's a damn big business. It's an expensive one to run. And
so when Wojcicki says transforming the video service, maybe I missed where they explained what that means.
I did. This article certainly didn't say it. She mentions the stuff that we know, the VR, the YouTube Red, and the increasing focus on live.
So next week is Apple's developer conference. Do we think, is there going to be any news that's going to affect us out of that, or we don't?
Apple is important. The couple things I think are interesting in our world. One, because TV OS is new, any iterations they do to that, and particularly to expand it as a platform, creates a very important potential platform for people. I don't know that people are totally convinced that Apple TV 4 and TV OS is taking over the world, but it can't be unimportant given the ecosystem it's connected to. And Siri, opening Siri to an API, I think that we're going to see an increasing interaction over the next 5 years between speech and video. And right, so if you are a creator and you suddenly can build speech hooks into your news, your how-to, maybe even your multi-part fiction. I mean, I think that there's a lot of things that could happen when people get to talk back to the TV set.
Well, I've had Alexa up and running in my house for 3 days. I'm not yet. Well, I did suggest to someone that I was kicking Siri to the curb.
You said that last week.
Yeah, no, it's definitely happening. But we are out of time, so I'll have to tell you more about Alexa next week. But
all right,
we're all hacked out for this week, so I'll have an excellent week.
You too, and to everybody, keep on hacking.